Let's talk about some good, bad, cool, weird off seasons. As I mentioned, Predators kind of go without saying. They loaded up. Oilers go without saying. They got Henrique back, signed a bunch of guys, and we've talked about those two teams a little bit, and we'll talk about them more later at some point. But let's talk about some other ones, some favorites, some least favorites. Top of my list for like favorite, great job, whatever. Utah's draft weekend was amazing for me. Absolutely loved them trading for Sergachev. Loved them trading for John Marino. And then they take TJ Ginla. Sean, I know that you're a Coyotes guy, and we're all Coyotes guys to some extent. You're going to see the Utah Yetis, whatever they are, the Utah nameless team, be a lot better next year. They missed the playoffs by a bajillion points. I don't think that they're necessarily a playoff team, but you look at that team, and specifically that defense, and you're like, damn, respect, tip the cap. What do you think of Utah?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, they're at least icing a respectable team, and they're putting together like a core. I think this was a core summer, like a core building summer. The Sergachev deal, nobody saw coming, I don't think, and I love that deal for them. Obviously, so it depends on how healthy Sergachev is, and I know that he came back for the playoffs, but I would say that he probably wasn't ready. And I think it more speaks to how lowly I think of Tampa's summer, and we can get to that in a little bit. But the other end of the spectrum, like Utah, I think that Utah with TJ Ginla and Mikhail Sergachev, like you're adding two core pieces, assuming that Ginla is who we think that he's going to be. But like they wanted to make a splash. I know they wanted to make a splash this summer to like drum up fan interest, to put together a respectable year one product. And I think they did a good job.
The only thing with Sergachev where people could have seen it coming was he was about to get his rights. He was about to get his, because he's 26 years old. I believe he was about to turn 27, or this July 1 was where he would have accrued the experience or whatever to have whatever no trade or no movement is in his deal kick in. So it was like the point of, if you're going to trade him at some point, try to do it now. But man, I hated that trade for the Lightning.
I don't see why they would have had like, we got to trade this guy on their mind, though. That's my thing. They just gave him that extension, and like he's their most important piece long term on the blue line. Like now, obviously they have the Hedman contract extension, but like Sergachev was supposed to be like next man up. And I think they abandoned that for whatever reason, whether it was just to free up money, whether it was they didn't like what they saw health-wise, didn't like what they saw in terms of his development. I don't know, but it was surprising to me.
Yeah, they as soon as that trade happened, I was like, they must think he's broken forever and that he's only going to play 10 more games a season. But you look at it from Utah's perspective, that back end now, they've got 3 really good defensemen back there. Durzi, Marino, Sergachev. They're nothing to sneeze at. Offensively, there's a lot to be desired, but Cooley's going to be a year older. Josh Doan probably going to get a full NHL season. I have no idea if TJ Ginla is making the jump this season. I would expect probably not, right? Like, probably I know that they took him, 5th, 6th overall or whatever, but typically that's in the range where maybe they go back for another year of junior or whatever. There's no rush there. I do wonder how much of that was he's near the top of our list and also publicity. I'm totally okay with that because it's the Gunnar Wolf Fontaine rule where if somebody with a name, whether it's a cool sounding name or the bloodlines of an NHL legend and a Hall of Famer is there, you better be positive that guy fucking stinks when you pass on him. So when people were talking about Ginla he'll slide to the Flames.
If not even further.
And then there was even some scuttlebutt that maybe he falls even further than that. I was like, I wouldn't be that GM. I'd be like, yo, fucking fire me. I took TJ Ginla and I was wrong. The fucking horror of thinking Jarome Iginla's son was going to be amazing. I think that is like a fireproof kind of selection. Love that Utah made it. Would have liked him for the Flames, but Utah, Watch out for my guys.
And as far as Utah goes, I feel like people are forgetting that Clayton Keller is like a year removed from having a franchise record season. He had almost had a 90-point season immediately after breaking his leg and having no offseason. Like he didn't play during the offseason. He showed up for the regular season and then had a record-setting performance.
Also, like, don't underestimate the power of good vibes. Like the Coyotes team just has not had good vibes around it for years at this point. And I'm not saying that that's why the team has not been good. Like, obviously they didn't have a great product a couple of years ago. It was like one of the worst ice teams that we could have imagined. But like, vibes are going to be very good in Utah, and they're going to be taken care of. And like, the facilities are going to be pretty good. The interest is going to be there. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that had a real effect on the team in terms of motivation, in terms of just like wanting to be at the rink every day, like wanting to put their best foot forward. That stuff could matter.
The entire roster got a change of scenery.
Yeah. And let's not forget U.S. Thanksgiving last year, they were right around the playoffs.
Yes.
And Connor Ingram was amazing last year. They still don't have a backup goalie. But like, if Connor Ingram is what he was last year, maybe even a little better, like they have pretty solid goaltending. They have I think a respectable top line with Keller, Schmaltz, Cooley, like however you want to mix that up. Like they have some solid offensive players.
Are we talking ourselves into watch out for the Utahs? Are we talking ourselves
I would
into
say playoffs not out of the question.
I would say they are comparable to the Buffalo Sabres offensively and goaltending wise. I just think that what the Sabres have in young defensemen is significantly better. But I don't think that those two teams are that far apart, which makes me very sad.
So tell you what, this might even be underselling it. I'm going to start them off on In the Hunt watch. And I think that is an easy place for them to be and stay for the season, which if you don't listen to our show, there's In the Hunt, there's Playoff Bubble, there's all these. If you're on In the Hunt watch, it means that there's a possibility you could be in the hunt. And in the hunt doesn't necessarily mean you make the playoffs, but like the Eastern Conference had 1 million teams in the hunt last year. This is a team that I will say I'm starting them off on In the Hunt watch, where if they win 5 of their first 7 games, we're looking around and we're saying, maybe not this, but something like this.
I'll also say I think they have a top 5 coach in the NHL. I love Andre Torini, and I think he's amazing at his job. And I think you could have made the argument that I'm confused my years. Last year or the year before, could have won Jack Adams. I think he's just very good at his job, very good at developing young players. So
watch out for Utah. They're on In the Hunt watch.
Hey, thanks for watching the channel.
We appreciate everybody who checks out our stuff, but 80% of our viewers are not actually subscribed to this page, so if you could smash that subscribe button, it would go a very long way for us.
The more subscriptions we have, the more visibility we get from YouTube, which allows us to do more.
So press that button. Thank you. My second favorite offseason, I would say, other than like the obvious ones, Nashville, Edmonton doesn't count because there's like literally nothing to not like about it. The Devils, man. The Devils. I love them getting Brett Pesce. Sheldon Keefe, nothing to sneeze at. Jacob Markstrom. They have the goalie. Their defense not only is getting better, their defense is getting so much better because their biggest move of the offseason is a healthy Dougie Hamilton. Hamilton's going to be back next season. And you have Brett Pesce. You continue to import basically the Carolina Hurricanes blue line, and you do it in front of a good goaltender with a new coach who should feel motivated and will make the playoffs with that team. Like I would say they're a shoo-in for the playoffs, but they have righted their wrongs, I think, pretty strongly.
Buddy, not only are they a shoo-in for the playoffs, they currently sit as the second best favorites in the Eastern Conference to win the Stanley Cup. Behind the Florida Panthers, the New Jersey Devils are the second favorite in the Eastern Conference, which I think might be an overcorrection a little bit.
You sure about that?
It does speak to like don't forget about the Devils. Don't forget about how good the Devils were 2 years ago. And I think for a number of reasons, you can kind of throw last year in the trash, but the things that they needed to correct from last year, they have absolutely corrected, and then some heading into this season. You get a new coach. I really like Sheldon Keefe for that group. I didn't love Sheldon Keefe in Toronto, but I think that, when you look at specifically like Bruce Cassidy, wasn't that good in his first coaching job, and I think he learned a lot from it. I think Sheldon Keefe is going to be really good in New Jersey, and he's going to carry over the things that he did well in Toronto to New Jersey. So I love that. I mean, you said the biggest move was getting Dougie Hamilton back. I think it's a 1A, 1B situation. If I had to put like a 1B, like Markstrom is their big move of the offseason, because even if Dougie Hamilton came back, if they ran back that goaltending situation, they would be so fucked. They just didn't get any saves. They didn't get any. They were worse than the Hurricanes last year. Like, they didn't get a single fucking save. Like, the Hurricanes had okay goaltending. The Devils had actively bad goaltending. And now you get Jacob Markstrom, who I love. I think Jacob Markstrom's ceiling is very high, can be one of the best goaltenders in the entire NHL. So, like, they added Stefan Nason as well. Like, they improved their bottom six. They improved their defense, their blue line. They vastly improved in net. They improved behind the bench. I really, really like the Devils to be a team that makes a massive jump. And, even to what they were 2 years ago, I think they're going to be a much better team.
I think that starting them off as second favorites to win the cup out of the East is crazy. And as you said, an overcorrection, but
also
it takes away the don't sleep on the Devils card.
Also, who would you put above them? Like, look at the East. Obviously, the Florida Panthers, and you said they're tied for second?
They are no, they're just straight up second. It's the Panthers, the Devils, and the Hurricanes, and then the Rangers and the Leafs.
So many teams in the East got worse.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you could argue that
Tampa worse, Boston worse,
Carolina worse.
Do you think Boston got worse?
I don't think Boston did not get worse.
We'll say close, marginally better, or whatever. Like, I don't even know if I believe that they're worse, but we could talk about the Bruins now. Like, they subtracted what made them finish high in the standings. Like, the reason why the Bruins were always going to be either the Atlantic Division winner or second place, something like that, is because every game you'd say, they're probably going to win. Why? Because you have the Vezina winner in net. Why? Because you have an all-star in net. And they no longer have that. They're going to play Swayman a lot more. But what made them a great regular season team is now gone. They've made themselves a better playoff team, I will say. But who knows how they end up shaking out standing-wise. Are they going to be the second best team in the Atlantic again? Will they win the Atlantic? Will they be a 3 seed there? Will they be a wild card team? They're better positioned for the playoffs because they have multiple centers now for the first time. And they can probably play Pavel Zacha on the wing. But they still need, I'll tell you what, man, they still need Matthew Poitras to be a guy so they can play Pavel Zacha at first line left wing or second line left wing or whatever. Or you need Merkulov or somebody, one of these forwards, to stick, because losing Jake DeBrusk, I know that no Bruins fans are sad about that, but you didn't have centers. You really didn't have centers, but you also didn't have wings. Now you kind of have centers and you don't have wings. So you've kind of robbed Peter to pay Paul there.
So I agree with specifically one point you made there, which was that they're going to probably be a worse regular season team, but they are going to be a much better playoff team. And I think that they're going to get into the playoffs, and once they get there, they are much better positioned to win in the playoffs, having two solid top six centers in Elias Lindholm and Charlie Coyle. And the wings aren't great, but you don't win on the wing. like, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's why I hate the Tampa Bay Lightning's offseason, because they are building their team around strong wings, and we'll get to them in a second. But like, you can only play one goaltender in the playoffs, and you can talk all you want about like the goalie rotation and all that, but as we've seen over the past 2 years, like, the Bruins just aren't going to do that. They're not going to rotate in the playoffs because somebody's going to seize the net, or they're just going to give the net to somebody. So you may as well subtract that, be a worse regular season team, and build a better playoff team. And Lindholm, I really like his two-way game. He's going to be a good playoff player. And I love the edge that Zadorov brings to the blue line. Like, he's not the best defenseman, but the size and the toughness and the meanness that he brings to their blue line is so necessary. Like, Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, Brandon Carlo, Mason Lohrei, a really good group to have on your blue line, but they're soft. Like, there's not enough meanness in that group for a defensive core. And getting Zadorov, I think, adds an element that they absolutely needed. And do I love the contracts that they gave out to each one of them? No, not really, but you have to pay to get the players.
Lindholm,
and the Bruins are in a spot where they kind of had to pay.
The Lindholm, I think that both those contracts really are fine. You're going to roll your eyes at points with the term on Zadorov, because he's, for all the things we love about him, like, he's just not a fucking great player. But Boston fans, as we said, will absolutely love him. I still don't know how I feel about 91 on him, but it's fun for me.
It's fun.
It's fun for like a menacing player to wear such an electric number. Yeah.
But he's I feel like it fits his big frame for some reason.
Interesting. He does have a big frame. Lightning offseason, you mentioned, they downgraded on the wing. They swapped out Sergachev and Stamkos for Gensel and Zemgus Girgensons. Another loss, Sean. Apologies.
That one actually does kind of make me sad. He's a Sabres legend.
That one you do feel?
The Latvian locomotive, bro.
I mean, he was on the list of one of my favorite topics, surprising lifers.
Yeah, he was the longest tenured Sabre for, like, by a lot. Because I think Casey Middlestat was second behind him before they traded him.
Crazy.
No,
I mean, they also added Cam Atkinson, by the way. Like, yeah, I know Cam Atkinson's not much at this point in his career, but he might play in their top six, which is like, that's an indictment of where the Tampa Bay Lightning are. I don't know. I don't know if they downgraded on the wing. Like, Steven Stamkos is
better than Stamkos is better than Gensel.
Gensel's really good.
Gensel is really good, and he's shown that he can do it without Sidney Crosby. We'll see how he does it with Braden Point. I mean, Jake Gensel is a bloody great player. You heard my spiel
at this
last
stage
week
of their careers
about the Stamkos.
At this stage of their careers
it,
with the yeah, but at this stage of their careers and the contracts that they got, I think that I'd take Gensel over Stamkos. Like, if I had to pick one.
Plus a third-round pick, and you have to get rid of Mikhail Sergachev to sign him? Ugh.
No, definitely not. I'm just saying, in a vacuum, those contracts, those players, I'm probably taking Jake Gensel.
They just did so much to end up with this result. I'm like, man, I know,
that's the thing.
And I hate building teams around wings. I yelled at them for doing it last week. And for some reason, it wouldn't feel like they were doing that if they brought back Stamkos, because it would just be like, it's our captain. We're giving him $8 million for 4 years, whatever. I still might end up liking this. I would not be shocked. This will be a little hot takey. I won't be shocked if this Stamkos contract ends up being better than the Gensel contract, because I'll tell you what, Stamkos is going to go the fuck off next season. He is going to shove it up their ass as best he possibly can. Yeah, this past year was a contract year, but this year is the fuck you, both fucking double fingers, check them out right here. After all I gave you, you fucking basically kicked me to the curb. This was not an insurmountable contract for them to potentially give him. I think he's going to go crazy next year. He'll have a better season than Gensel. I can promise you that.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. I don't know about that, because I think that Gensel's playing on much better line.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's playing on maybe one of the best lines in hockey. Like, that could be
Point Kucherov.
the best line in hockey. Point Kucherov, Gensel. That is going to be a three-headed monster, and
So
they are going to produce like crazy.
Last week you said the best line in hockey was Skinner, Draisaitl, Arvidsson. Are you revising that declaration?
I did not say that.
It could be, man. What if that line is fucking crazy? What if Arvidsson is healthy and both
Arvidsson's is such a hit or miss player.
Big time. Big. I like they took the swing there, especially when you have more of a sure thing with Jeff Skinner, even if he's really streaky. But like, what if all three players on that line score 40 goals?
That would be amazing. I don't see it happening. I definitely could see Jeff Skinner scoring 40 goals. I could absolutely see Jeff Skinner scoring 40 goals. I do not think that Victor Arvidsson is going to score 40 goals.
I'd like to talk about what I think is the coolest offseason. You know where I'm going with this just from personal text.
I sure do.
Washington Capitals, I fucking love that you went out, collected a bunch of outcasts, people in contracts that nobody wanted, and then just a few days ago was like, oh shit, let's get a general manager. Love the behavior. Love the behavior. They took on PLD from the Kings at the beginning of that horrible contract. Andrew Mangiapane for a second-round pick. Sneaky good trade, maybe. Who knows? It's the type of thing that the Capitals are doing right now. Logan Thompson, he wanted out of Vegas. Sure, bring him in here. And Jacob Chychrun. What a collection. They got all the guys that we said, well, where the fuck is this guy going to go? They all went to the Capitals. I love it for my guys. And they're going to add to this group. They got Sonny Milano and they got a 5 bajillion-year-old Alex Ovechkin. I have no fucking idea where this goes for my guys, but I'm excited to find out.
Zero idea, but they're at least interesting, and at least I know some of the players on the team now. Like I learned a few players from the Washington Capitals last year, but overall, it was a general collection of, well, who the fuck is that guy? And it was just like a lot of Hershey Bears, and that worked because their coach was the former coach of the Hershey Bears and had relationships with those guys, and it kind of worked, but. I don't know. I'm looking at their roster now, and they've got guys that I recognize, and they got guys that I'm interested in, and I do like the element of, well, nobody fucking wanted you, boys. Come here, and let's show them something. Because if you don't think that, like, PLD and Jacob Chychrun are entering this year, knowing that, like, over the next few years, if they don't show up, get ready to learn KHLanese, boys, because holy fuck. These guys,
there's a team this year that is just wearing black jerseys that say the city name because they don't have a team and they're new and they're figuring everything out. If you were to look at every roster in the NHL, you would point to Washington's and say, there was an expansion draft. They look like the end result of an expansion draft. They look like Alex Ovechkin was a free agent. They were a new team, signed him to a bad contract because they were like, you know what, we're kind of doing the Brooklyn Nets thing of 2013 or whenever it was. We just need to have the big names. We're moving into a new place. Oh, and now for the expansion draft. Yeah, give us your first round pick. We'll take PLD off your hands. Okay, we'll take this. Yeah, well, Jacob Chychrun, okay, you left him unprotected. This all looks like it was an expansion draft, but instead it was the end result of years and years of team building plus real honest to goodness trades. Like they didn't do a give us a bunch of picks and we'll take PLD off your hands. They were like, all right, we'll do Kemper. And like they negotiated a trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois without a GM.
And honestly,
I love it.
And honestly, for a team that traded for PLD and took the whole contract and didn't really get a sweetener, I don't hate the trade because, like, what else are the Washington Capitals going to do? Like, what else are you going to do?
And they're doing this without
path forward.
They're doing this. They're not mortgaging their future. If anything, they're like kind of mortgaging
They
their
didn't have
presence
one.
because you could guess where the present is going to go. But they're like, fuck it, whatever. We're not like trading away our future first round picks. What we'll be fucking fine. And the Pierre-Luc Dubois contract is a walking, we will not necessarily be fine sign, but they'll fucking figure it out. I love it.
We all silly like the mayor.